Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I know I've been gone. I took a huge hiatus, but we are back. I'm calling this season 5, and I'm putting out an episode every week. On today's episode, we have Rich of Metropolis Vintage, okay? Great guy, godfather of the New York vintage scene, and we have great chats, talk about everything that's going on in New York City and on the East Coast. I'm in the warehouse right now. New warehouse. Beth, say hi. Hi. We are here working away. This is the new space. Beth, do you want to pick out your favorite piece on the racks? Do that while I tell a story. Okay, I'm gonna keep these intros short here, but I wanted to talk about Value Village and Goodwill. Yes, Goodwill. Goodwill has currently partnered with this company called Hammock with a Q to sell clothing online. And this company, Hammock with a Q, what do? It's an AI company that actually helps them price their garments. So what they can do is just barf product online into this program. The program artificially comes up with data points based on what's on the internet and prices it and everything. So basically they now need to have no knowledge, but can learn all the knowledge through this company called Hammock. What do you guys think of this? It's not really good for resellers because it means that they might be taking everything good and they're going to be learning a lot more about what is good and what's valuable and selling it themselves. Check out that company called Hammock. But I also wanted to quickly talk about Value Village, and I might have mentioned this on another podcast before, but Value Village, also called Savers, huge racket going on. They've had lawsuits against them for misleading the public into thinking that they're a charity. Because huge signs in front of the store say, donate to us, help a charity. Yes, sure, if you donate to them, technically, they do donate some percentage of the weight of your clothing to charity. What does that mean? It means that if you donate a bag of clothes, say you donate 10 pounds to Savers or Value Village, they are supposed to put it on a scale and then literally donate a value based on that weight. And I think it's something ridiculous, like 2 cents a pound or 10 cents a pound or 5 cents a pound. It's something ridiculous. So if you say you donate 10 pounds, maybe it's 5 cents a pound. That's like 50 cents they're donating to charity. That 10 pounds could be, say, 20 t-shirts that they go and sell for $10 a piece, meaning they make $200. That means they've donated 50 cents out of your $200 value that you gave them. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that seems a bit sketchy to me. It's not really helping the charity very much. It's also a privately held company where, they've reported years ago over like 300 million in profits. So I don't know, just want to talk about that. And you can make the choice where you want to donate your clothing, but I would recommend donating it to small thrift stores that actually do good for your local communities, not the big corporate chains that are misleading you, not really doing what you say. It's a form of charitable greenwashing in a sense. I don't know, there should be a term for that. Anyway, enough about that. What'd you pick out?
Okay, so I'm not a huge sports person, so maybe I'm a fraud here with this. But look at it.
Very dope choice. The Miami Hurricanes spell out hooded sweatshirt.
How beautiful it is.
It is sick. It's got the M and the I on the sleeve.
And just the colors, then this little shoelace drawstring.
So that's the open hem that you can
It's just the perfect shape, and it's just so look at the condition of it.
It's great. So good pick. Great pick. Obviously, if you want to shop that piece and other pieces, all these vintage pieces here, go shop EffensandFrankVintage.com. Enough of that. Here is Rich of Metropolis, New York. Let's go.
Welcome to Vintage and Soft with True High Fits. Welcome to Vintage and Soft with True High Fits. Welcome to Vintage and Soft. True High Fits. Welcome to Vintage and Soft. We got vintage clothing by the rack, yeah. Just check out my Insta, how you gonna
thank you for jumping on this call with me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I've always appreciated your podcast. I've listened to almost all of them. So,
Well, thank you very much. And, I look up to you as the godfather of the East Coast, man.
I'm still standing. That's why.
It's rad to see. It's rad to see someone like yourself who's been in the game so long, still embracing vintage and embracing the community and embracing like what's happening in vintage. And I don't make it out to the East much, but I see what's going on, and I know you're a huge part of the scene.
Well, yeah, exactly what you said. I embraced the new stuff, and that's why I think I'm still around, because I had the ability to do that. But before we start out, I want to give a big shout out to your father, because with the interview you had with him, he mentioned two names that I started with. I guess that was at the beginning when I started, and he mentioned two names, Sheba and Seltzer, Walter Seltzer. And he said he used to come down to New York and go to these rag houses. Well, they weren't rag houses. They would buy, from rag houses, already graded stuff and then sell it. But they had specialized in selling vintage. And just hearing those two old names was just, nostalgic for me. So, and tell your father that Walter Seltzer's son is still in business. He does shoes down in Miami area. So those are two great names. I mean, Sheba was the typical old, crabby old guy, but Walter Seltzer was a real gentleman, a really nice guy. And just to hear that from your father. So say hello to your old man for me. Okay?
I will. I'll definitely do that. And he'll be so excited to hear that. It's good to hear other people in the game from so far back are still doing their thing.
Oh yeah. That's the first place I ever went to was Walter Seltzer. So it was a real trip back then to go to a rag house for the first time. I mostly do rag houses, but at times I've gone to thrift shops, but, and then also, you buy and sell from people who walk in the store, but to get that volume, you have to do rag houses. So the first guy I went to was Walter Seltzer, but we should start at the beginning where it all started, right?
That's what I want to know. Like, how did you even get involved into this world, and how did you end up finding someone like Seltzer? And what?
Well, similar to you, yeah, you had a relative. You had your father, but I had an uncle who was in the business. He was doing it in New York since about the late 1960s. He was an artist, and then he would do, buy and sell clothing. Actually, there is somebody older than me called Church Street Surplus label. I think he's close to 90 years old or past 90. He owns his building, so he still has his store. But he saw this guy selling stuff down on the Lower East Side, and he found he started it was all beaded dresses from the 1920s, and so he started doing it. And then I went to school in Brooklyn in 1978, and I started hanging around him, and he had a store in Soho. So I got to be around the business. And then after I graduated in 82, I was a graphic designer. A lot of graphic designers in this business. You ever notice that?
I haven't really. I've noticed a lot of like recovering drug addicts. And
well, it's kind of the one and the same, but maybe because all the graphic designers kind of know each other.
Yeah.
So kind of the creative people, I guess. I was freelancing, and he said, "Hey, why don't you go to this place and you could pick up stuff, and you could go make some extra money on the side." And that was about 82 or so. And I would do it on, every now and then I would go to a rag house. Well, New York at the time had a lot of rag houses. I think we're down to one. There's only one left now. But they're all over Brooklyn and the Bronx and Queens and stuff like that. So it was really easy. You just go drive to a rag house, 30 minutes, and then you go pick up some stuff and bring it to the flea market. I started selling in the flea markets. And I started full-time in 84, so that's how I got into it. And then I decided, listen, this money's too good. It's well, actually, this is the thing that started. And back then, there was a whole different look. It was the long overcoats. I don't know if you remember. Or girls used to wear like the big jackets and roll up the sleeves. Do you remember like Miami Vice look?
For sure, yeah.
And people used to wear these big long overcoats. And it was kind of like the start of like rockabilly era, which is the early 1980s. So we were selling 1950s and 40s clothing, gabardine stuff.
Yeah.
And so when I decided I'm going to do this to make a living, I went to a rag house, in the Bronx. And, when you first get started, I couldn't find the really good stuff, which was like the tweed overcoats or the good gabardine. And this is a true story. There was a barrel, you know what barrels are,
Yeah.
of denim jackets. Nobody's looking at it. Nobody's touching it. This is 1984. So I picked them out, a bunch of them. How much are these? And the old man says, 2 bits. It's 2 bits. What's 2 bits? So I finally figured out what 2 bits was. It was 50 cents. That's pretty cheap. Even in 84, that's pretty cheap. So I took the barrel, bought all these jackets, and gosh, I went and washed them at a laundromat. You know how a laundromat dryers are the worst. So got them all, put them up, went to the flea market, put them out, put them on a little, 4-foot rack. Half an hour later, Japanese guy comes. How much? It was like $20 a piece. I don't know what it was. I take all of it. I was like, wow, that was easy. So that I got into the denim right then and there, and he became my customer for about 10 years straight, wholesale customer. And then eventually, you go and you start to learn about double X and, rivet in the pocket. What the hell does that mean? Rivet in the big E, or what the hell is that? So all that was, 1984 explained to me. But, as you know, prices weren't up.
Through that period, from that first day of buying denim.
Yeah.
Because that was still early, kind of.
Very early.
Japan's movement into vintage clothing and their whole infatuation with it. So
Mm-hmm.
you must have seen it grow through the 80s and then boom and crazy in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it went, well, see, this is the thing that I always wanted to talk about. There's a parallel to what happened now with the pandemic and T-shirts, to what happened with denim. And yeah, it was pretty mild. It was just you could pick up denim jackets for $5 or less, or pants for $5 or less. And, back then it was only had to be Big E, or, on the East Coast, there was not a lot of, first or second style, pleated jackets.
Yeah.
You really didn't find them, because most of the rag from the East Coast was, from the East Coast, where I think that period of time where denim got big in the United States was the mid-'60s, and that's when the third style came in fashion. So you'd find plenty of third style Big E's, but you really didn't find that much of double X or 1 or 2 pockets. But everything else, like the gabardines and everything else, was really plentiful.
That's because Levi's is West Coast, of course.
Yes.
And, you're obviously getting donations from people on the East Coast. It's coming from Philly, all the whole Eastern Seaboard you're getting rag from. So it's just very situational of what you find in different places of the country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was talking to somebody about beach jackets, the beach, those, and then it's basically a New England brand. And we would find those, every week you find a couple of them. And those are really always good sellers. And now they're really big.
Like a Massachusetts thing or something?
Yeah, they're from New England, Massachusetts. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I believe so. So you would find them in, dead stock. You'd find them dead stock in old Army and Navy stores. And they were in the rags constantly. And they were just a throwaway item. But
crazy considering at some point they were I'm sure now still they're thousands of dollars or.
Oh, today, yeah, the people, they're really in demand. I mean, I haven't found one in years, not in a long time, but it was like a kind of a staple item, years ago.
Story about how there's a parallel here in the denim to the pandemic. This is very interesting.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Okay, as you said, I started in 84. I didn't have a store. I opened a store in 1990. So that period of 84 to about 1990, it was very easy to make money. As the old saying, like taking candy from a baby, because information didn't travel that fast. So you could buy a lot of denim, $5, $10 and sell it 25 to 50. Or I remember I had a couple of 2 pockets. It was I got $150 each. It was oh my God, But it was very easy. There was big margins, tremendous margins. So, and that was a period of time where, you know, I was able to save up a lot of money. I bought my house, and then I opened the store with the profits from all that denim period, because majority of my business was wholesaling to Japanese. I always did flea markets every weekend. You know, they had flea markets all over New York, basically in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was good. But, you know, when it gets cold out, I mean, like, you know, people don't want to shop. So, you know, but I would do the wholesale. He'd come in every couple of months and do pretty good with that. And the military was a very big item too. So it was denim, leather, motorcycle jackets, military stuff, especially 1950s, 40s stuff, obviously, and then 60s stuff. So all that was pretty good, especially flight jackets and stuff like that. So the parallel is this. In the late 80s, the United States and Japan made an agreement on the exchange rate between the dollar and the yen. It was about 250 or so to a dollar. Then they cut it down to about 150 to a dollar. So all of a sudden, overnight, Japanese money became very valuable. In other words, a dollar was now 50 cents to them. You know, their money became double valuable.
Yeah.
That started the wave of Japanese people coming in. That was late 80s, early 90s. And it was just through the roof. I mean, it was just unbelievable. They would be coming in and just wave after wave after wave and buying and buying. And then slowly, you know, information would get out. You know, there's a fellow, there was a Mormon guy that had a book. I don't know. I wish I lost the book. He had a magazine, like a big, thick magazine. You know, he was a Mormon that went to Japan and then learned about all this stuff, you know, as a, they have to go, you know, try to convert people in Japan or whatever. Okay. So he learned about sneakers and denim. So he was buying all of it and selling it over there. And he put out a book with a price guide and sent it around, and everybody was upset. And then obviously eBay started. I think that was early 90s, sometime in the 90s. So information got out there. And then, you know, when the margins were like this, margins go like that. Yeah. Because there's more people in it. And, you know, as supply goes down, demand goes up. And the margin, you know, between what you pay and what you sell for starts to get squeezed down. And the parallel is this very similar thing. I think what happened in the pandemic was you had a popular item, T-shirts. I mean, they were doing good. There weren't, you know, there was a nice, healthy margin, you know, especially from a rag house. And then overnight, you know, money flowed in and information flowed out. In other words, like, you know, Instagram Live was, you know, that happened like overnight, kind of. You know, when that Instagram Live started, you know, it was able, people can bypass. It was like, so, but there was the competition. And then, so you had all these people with extra money out of nowhere, similar to what the exchange rate happened in the late 90s, to what happened in the pandemic, where people, you know, everybody was getting checks and unemployment and this and that and that and that. So then the margin squeezed, and, you know, here we are. So it was a very similar thing. And I think now it's starting to cool down a little bit, the T-shirt thing. But the vintage in general, I mean, I've been in it since, like I said, 84. Been hanging around since 78, but it's never been as popular as now. So it's never been as broad-based.
You've seen all the waves within this business for 40 years, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that comparison to what's happened now to the Japanese, because I think it's important for people to get that, because I've spoke about the economics of it many times on the show, right? About how this can't just continue forever. And you had all, like you said, you had the information flowing out. You sit on Instagram Live for enough nights, you're going to learn enough to do something. Then
money goes up, information goes up, and then prices go up, and then margins go like this, you know?
Yeah, and then all those people who were buying became sellers. So then there's less people buying and more people selling.
Oh, yeah. And then, like, you know, when things, you know, like just recently the Nike thing, you know, like the sweatshirt, and like everybody jumped into that, and then, you know, prices went up. But then everybody found out that, hey, there's a lot of Nike sweatshirts out there.
Yeah.
You know, especially like the boring colors. So then the prices went down, you know. So like when something gets popular, it's like coming out of the woodwork, and then it floods the market, and then, then it'll definitely even out after a while. So yeah, I've been like with the swings, it goes up and down. And I mean, honestly, I know I'm sounding like a little bit, hey, what the hell? But I knew it. I knew that these T-shirts were just too good. These 90s T-shirts. It was, I mean, you were there. You were doing T-shirts early.
Yeah.
You buy them for what, $5-10, and you were selling them for $100 or more. And it was like, no, this can't continue. It's so at that time, which was a couple of years ago, obviously pre-pandemic, I said, it ain't gonna last, and I just have to get ready, because it's, you rely, when you rely on something too much. I have a lot of overhead. I have a store. Here we're in the basement now.
Yeah.
I have a store, I got
Yep.
employees, I got, wife and children and all that. And so I got to produce money, and I can't just rely on just one item. Do not rely on one item, because you'll live and die by it.
Yeah.
You live and die. Because I remember people who were the biggest denim dealers. I mean, you do too. Where are they now?
Yeah.
They're gone, because they relied on one item.
No, and my business, we don't rely on one item. We don't rely on one income stream either. Like, we diversify income streams and product line, so that, some months something's hitting when something isn't, And
Yeah. So if there's any piece of advice to anybody who's listening to this in the vintage business, and diversify, try to find, I mean, you might be good at sports. Now, sports is a big inventory of stuff. So that's kind of like, it kind of has legs underneath it, because, hey, I'm selling 90s, I'm selling 2000s, it's all good. But try to diversify, because if you're going to be one item, remember, you live and die by it. So you have to be very careful and watch out for your overhead, So I just try to do other things. I mean, I've been selling Carhartt for years, and look how Carhartt is doing today. Phenomenal. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Or, sweatshirt. Look how sweatshirts are doing. I'm just trying to think through all my store. Denim jackets. Oh, denim is still there, but it's popping. There's a lot. Look, the wide legs. I've always been playing around those for years, because the Janko type of things. Tommy Hilfiger and all those wide legs. So I've been playing around them. I've always tried to get out there to try different things. And sometimes, people make fun of you, So I owe everybody out there who sells 90s stuff. I took all the abuse for you 5, 10, 15 years ago, all right? So I want 5% of all your sales going forward, because I had to take the abuse. They go, what the fuck? What the fuck?
People come in your store.
I had that in high school, and you're selling, what the fuck? And now they come in and they go, oh my God, so beautiful.
Yeah. It goes so quick from that is never coming back, that was such a bad trend, to like overnight. Because the irony, it's like this time period of irony and nostalgia. Once it hits, it's game over, and it always does. It always.
Oh yeah. So but like I'm thinking, like, how did, like, your original thing was like, how did I last from so long, from like 84 to like now it's almost 40 years? I got lucky in a way where my second store, I was located at 3rd Avenue and 10th Street, Manhattan. And that was a dormitory area. There was about 7 dormitory buildings, colleges, NYU, New School, Cooper Union. And it was just thousands of, so every year, we get a new crop of new students. So I get, so it stayed between like 18 and 22, this whole area. And just every year. So it's not like, oh, this person is 18 and now they're 35. It was just, oh, here's another group of young people, another group of young people, another group of young people. So I was in that, oh, that's another good advice. If you're going to open up a store, open up in a college area. It's always the best, especially with vintage. So I was in this young area, and it's actually just a few blocks from around where now, but also open up near a sneaker store today. That's another piece of advice. because there's a lot of parallels between the two today.
Big
So
time.
I was lucky that I opened up just by happen chance. I got this area. There's always young people. So I remember I when denim collapsed, I said, oh boy, I can't rely on I gotta find new things, So, you look at what kids wear, you go out to a music venue, you see some music, you go to a club, you hang out, you look online, what are people selling? And you see these new kind of things going on. And, you try to push forward, you try to push the envelope. And, the thing that I always say is that you have to get rid of your prejudices. And that's very hard because, you love old time stuff. I mean, I love old time stuff, stuff from the, pre 1970s,
Yeah.
But so when you go to buy, your tendency is always to go towards that. But when this new stuff comes out, your tendency is not to go towards that. And you have to find a way to push that old stuff away and go towards that new stuff. And I'll tell you, I don't know how much time we're going to go, but I'm doing older stuff again now. It's funny because you know how all the kids are into, what do they call it? True vintage, right?
Yeah.
Like I've gotten back into true vintage a little bit, but a couple of years ago, I decided that I'm going to get out of it completely. Forget about it. So I go to a t-shirt show or what vintage clothing show, 90s vintage clothing show. And somebody had up like that checkerboard deck jacket that it was kind of very thin nylon.
Yellow and black?
Chevron.
Yeah. Those are sick.
Yeah, there was a sick. And this is like about 5 years ago. And I'm sorry, the guy goes, how much? He goes, $100. It's like, so I said, nah. And I bought his t-shirts. I left that. And there was a Japanese guy grabbed that and he was running out at the end of the show. And that was the only item he got, right? And he was so happy. Oh, I got this. I'm so happy. But I'm coming out with like stacks of t-shirts like, this is before COVID. So I made a ton of money, but I was happy that I did that because I was able to get rid of my urge to buy that and to concentrate on the t-shirts. So, but now I'm going back to it. It's kind of funny. Because I'm kind of enjoying the old, the young kids are into the new stuff. And so I'm kind of getting back into the old stuff again a little bit. But, but you have to let go of your urges to go for certain things. And when you go for, you have to change that mindset up there, because a lot of times dealers and people, they get so used to everything. And then a whole new group of young people come in. And then they go, oh, son of a bitch, fucking young bastard, son of crap, fucking shit crap, but I can't make any fucking money. They're like this. Hey, listen, I feel the same way, but I still have to pay bills, So
that is the best impression ever.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm so used to it, so. But I'm kind of happy that people keep the old-timey stuff going, to denim and all that, because...
Well, that's kind of the evolution of this young generation getting bored of the T-shirts and getting bored of the same thing. And some of them are going to go into that older stuff, and some of them are going to fall away. I've always bought everything, and I've definitely dove into like the newer stuff heavy because I'm like, again, I'm like you. I'm like, what's my bottom line end of the month? Not am I purist on like only skateboard stuff or only motorcycle stuff, whatever. I'm like, I buy it all because I got to ride these trends. Fashion goes in trends. If you want to be in this world of fashion, you need to have what people want to wear.
Yeah, that's a very good word that you use, fashion. And you have to really distinguish yourself, I think, because you could be in the costume business or you could be in the fashion business. And I, many years ago, decided to be in the fashion business. So I'm presenting what's from the past now for kids to use to be fashionable now.
Yeah.
I'm not in the costume business. I love to be in the costume business. But.
And that's not to say like you can't be successful in costumes. You can, or you can be successful in like going down, say, just real true vintage, but it might be harder battle. And you have to decide. I think it comes down to like deciding what you're going to do. Are you in it, like you said, to be selling current fashion? Or are you in it for costumes? Or are you in it for a hobby? Those are all different things, right?
Oh, yeah.
You just have to make that choice.
Yeah, you have to make those choices. And, listen, you also have to make a choice because, this is a very movable business. It's a supply and demand business. I mean, there's no pure supply and demand in the vintage business. And it can get very frustrating. And when you're new to business and you first run into supply and demand, when supply goes down and supply is always going down in
Yeah.
vintage business. Demand is always going up. Usually, but when demand goes up and you get that squeezed and you built up a lot of overhead, you got to be very careful. So, but today, with the phone and the internet, people can, avoid the heavy overhead. So I think they've been able to pay a higher cost of goods, because they don't have that overhead of rent and stuff. So that's why I decided I'm going big. And that's why a few years ago I moved again, and I'm at my current location, and we have 2,000 square feet upstairs. And we have this big empty basement. You can't really see it here, but this is a really big space down here.
I mean, I've seen it through your events and your live streams and the events
Right.
and things, and I'm sure a
Right.
lot of people have seen it. But let's get into this talks about your store now. So,
Sure.
how was it when you first started the store? Was it Metropolis or did it have a different name?
Yes, it was Metropolis. I started in 1990, and I found a store on Avenue B between 6th and 7th Street. That's right near Thompson Square Park. And at the time, it was still the notorious, Lower East Side, and it was drug-filled, artists and crazy people and that whole stuff, homeless, and it was all going on back then. Also, but the rent was very cheap.
Yeah.
It was 1,000 square feet store for $1,000 a month, and it was even back then that was pretty cheap. I always looked for a good deal, So I jumped on that, and I had the store, but I was still doing wholesale a lot. But as the 90s progressed, I saw the wholesale going down to the Japanese. So I decided, look, I got to do more retail. So I wanted to get a bit busier location, even though Avenue B was nice. When it got dark, everybody disappeared because they're afraid of getting jumped. So I decided I found a place at 3rd Avenue and 10th Street, which was, in that dormitory area. And it was near St. Mark's Place, and St. Mark's is a big young person's area, and is closer to transportation. And I opened up there, and that was, oh my gosh, that was probably 24 years ago or something like that. I think I had a 12-year lease and a 10-year lease. At the end of the second lease, then I moved over here because I saw the way things were going, and I wanted to get bigger because I felt the only way I was going to survive was to get bigger, because I needed to have as much variety as possible, because I could play. I'll be able to play with goods, have this, that, I could put this in. I mean, I had Carhartt stuff, like racks of it, and when it wasn't selling, it was dead. But I had the room to store it. Years ago, if you have a small store, you can't store it. But thank God I had it, because when it hit, I put it all out and it all disappeared. So, I said this to a vintage dealer many years ago: space equals sales in this business. Because the longer you can hold on to things, the better. You could always going to find customers for stuff. Just to give a little example, and then maybe I'm talking too much. I don't know, but
This is what we want, man. That's what we're here
okay. I'll get it all out. You remember when Tommy stuff was really hot?
Yeah, huge.
I think you did something with Hilfiger, right?
We did in New York on Pier.
Yeah, and he came and he was rearranging your setup and everything. I saw that. I was like so jealous because I was like really hot on Tommy stuff too. And we're doing really good with it. And then dead, right? But I kept buying it and buying it. I just always believed in it. And then Europeans were still kind of buying it, and this and this and that and that. But then I had so much of it. The Lord blessed me. I got the movies came in. They were recreating like the 90s period. They needed to create it was like a TV series. What's it called? For Wu-Tang, right?
Okay.
Hulu. They came in, bought so much of it. It was phenomenal. But I had the room. I could put it in storage. I had to put it here, there. And I had the cash flow to put it away too. So, if you hold on to stuff long enough, you're going to find customers for everything. Now, that's not a fashion thing. That's more of a costume thing. But I had originally bought it as a fashion thing. Then it became a costume thing. Because nobody's really buying the regular customer. Nobody wants to look like a Tommy Hilfiger person today.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to look like Kanye with solid colors and black or gray, whatever.
It still might sell in like Australia or New Zealand or something.
Yeah.
It has like
Yeah,
an
exactly.
American
That's it.
market.
So
That's it.
space sometimes equals sales, if you could find a big space. And anyway, also why I came here was rents had finally started to drop, because of they call it the retail. Anyway, retail started to go down. And
Recently or
all of
through
a
the
sudden there's a lot of
pandemic or
stores for
before?
rent. Yeah. So how much is this? Oh, they're 30,000. I mean, New York prices, but 30, 40. All right. Then you start throwing out offers. And eventually the landlords they started to go down.
Nice.
So, you can it's a really good time now to look for a good space because the landlords are, they're hard up for tenants. And we have a popular business now,
So back to that. Do you think, my retail is doing well right now. We're like beating pre-pandemic numbers by a good percentage, I feel like right now in my retail, my physical retail store. So how do you, is your retail doing really well now that like online is slowed down and that whole movement is kind of quieted?
Obviously online, when the pandemic hit, we were just like, I was doing so good. Honestly, when I opened up my new store, which was, I even forgot, a year before the pandemic, basically. And I never had such a good year. I mean, it was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
All cylinders were running. I mean, T-shirts were just through the roof. I mean, all the clothing was just doing great. The boom, pandemic. And then I really wasn't concentrating on my online because whatever I could buy, I was just putting in the store. It was just flying the hell out. So why should I put it online?
Yeah.
So we would just take some leftover stuff. So pandemic hit, I had a lot of shirts. And so we put a lot of them online and they did very good. Now, as far as business, when we were, after 3-4 months, we were allowed to open, it came back about 2/3.
Okay.
And so all our kind of local customers came back. So that's great, but we're missing the tourism. In Manhattan, Manhattan is relying on tourism a lot. So it was doing good that just when we opened up, but then like kind of Delta happened last year, the big January, February, March. So things just collapsed in half. But then from April to December of last year, 2022 or 2021, I don't even know what year it was. Things got back to normal. It was doing great. And then we had the new wave come in January and then everybody was out and getting sick. And so the sales collapsed again, half in just this past January. But February, it shot right back up, when the whole thing ended. So it's really dependent upon these waves, but we did very good in December because the tourists came back finally. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
For me, it's very important because the tourists really like to spend money. Americans do spend money. So it's, as long as they're out there walking around, we're doing okay. And then I obviously wholesale prices went up. So I had to raise my price. So, T-shirt prices went up but if you want to talk about T-shirts, my philosophy is I try not to go above $250 for a T-shirt.
Okay.
Try to keep everything $250 and lower, like $45 to $250, within that range. And I try to get, but then again, for a $250 shirt, to buy it, you have to pay like, $150 now.
Yeah.
So you're not making the margins like you used to.
I have this impression of New York because I travel there a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like New York is probably the most expensive place to buy vintage in America. Now, do you feel that's accurate?
mean to buy from other dealers?
No, to buy in stores.
Well, I used to travel around the country a little bit, and I used to go to vintage stores. I mean, this is many years ago. And every now and then, you know, I do travel. I try to go to other stores, and I see their prices, and I think they're just about around the same because I think today with the internet and with with the phone, it kind of equalizes everything out. And I
Yeah,
think
true.
the advantage of New York that we have is that we have a lot of foot traffic, so we can get we could do more volume. So I think we make it up in volume as opposed, but price wise, I think it's just about the same. I mean, I try to keep my prices low, but then again, if you're only to find 3 of something a year and you could sell I try to, do I price it? Do I sell it right away? Do I price it where I sell them in a year, So I've been kind of inching my prices up. I mean, it's a hard thing. You know how pricing is.
No, it's super hard. I find it very tricky now
Ugh.
because there's too much quick fluctuation to keep on top of. So on my pricing, when I used to go to the Rose Bowl, I could price like anything in the booth
Yeah.
pretty accurately. Now I'm like, I have no fucking idea anymore.
No, it gets very frustrating. I mean, today I was like, having a problem getting a Coogee sweater. Coogee sweaters are very good now. And, they were easy to find, now, they're kind of tough. Oh, yeah, Tundra sweaters. I just brought in a bunch of sweaters. I had some Tundra, Tundra?
Of course, it's a Coogee style. Yeah.
Right, the Coogee style. It's not as nice color, but it's kind of nice quality. It's made in Canada, actually.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I said, they go, do you want me to price those? I said, wait till I come in and then we'll go over it. And so we decided, we normally would sell like 65, but let's try it a little bit more because Coogie's doing hot, 95, and give it a shot. You have to give it a shot and explore and try things. I mean, who thought Coogee? You can get $300-400 now for Coogee stuff if it's the right color and the right.
Yeah, that's wild. I know. It used to be like you said, like 50, 60 for the Tundra, and the Coogee was like 120, and then the Coogee went crazy.
Oh, it's still crazy. So so that's the struggle of the vintage business, and you can get frustrated, like, I can't get as much as I used to of this one item, but you have to try to look forward and look for new things, and that's the toughest thing is trying to go out there to find new things, and then then if you have to constantly try and explore and experiment, and and you put it in the store, it sits there for 6 months, and all of a sudden takes off, and you got an idea. Like I had the Carhartt I had a rat, like I swear to God, like that. But thank God I had it. So you could explore, you have to try new things, and
yeah, a good example of that is we call them booby jackets, but they're the jackets that are like silky, like with Baroque prints, like Versace.
Oh yeah, like the old lady jogging suit type of stuff. Yeah, I just put out a lot of those. Yeah, those are pretty great. I wouldn't wear those. You couldn't personally get me in them.
And we put those out like 10 years ago, and we thought they were the coolest things ever, and they were like a trickle, like nobody's buying these things. Why not? But we knew people in like New York and LA were wearing them, and it's like, you just have to push the boundaries, because that's what vintage is for. It's for like being unique and dressing interesting. It's about pushing the boundaries of fashion, having something that nobody has,
Yeah, and I think honestly, I don't know if this is true or not, but I just feel that like a lot of the big clothing companies, they're because they have to make things in such incredible quantities, they kind of make decisions that are like very boring because they have to sell incredible quantities. Where they have to go to China, or God knows where else they got to go. Where years ago it was more of local production. I mean, you're kind of producing stuff, and they can make smaller quantities and a lot of colors and patterns, and all different. They could sell it to all different communities in the country. So it seems like today, when you go to a department store, it's really boring.
Yeah.
Where if you go into a vintage store, it's got like a lot of variety, a lot of color, and sizing and things that the new clothing companies don't do. You go there, it's black, gray, or white. And it's like, okay,
And it's the same boring silhouettes, and it's silhouettes you've
Same
all
boring
seen.
stuff, and
Yeah, and especially, I mean, we're jaded, Rich.
oh yeah.
It takes a lot for you and me to get excited because we've seen so much. It's like we need to go into like a designer store that's like breaking ground or something to be excited about fashion.
Oh yeah, but then you get to see, how new companies. I mean, look how Supreme when they jumped on '90s stuff. I mean, they were just like a logo company. They just had like, and then they started kind of copying '90s looks, or copy. I mean, Polo did it many years ago, but they started copying a lot of the stuff that from the '90s or unusual patterns and usual fabrics, and they're bringing stuff back. And look how good they did. Or doing. They're doing great now. So, it's
that's a great point about not being afraid. Putting graphics on jackets or big bold colors or like super crazy logoed out. Like a lot of things they do were and are still probably pushing the boundaries and like very very interesting stuff. They do it.
Look what you do. You take a lot of stuff and then you cut it up and you change it. But it reminds me of what happened with like the fake Gucci from years ago. I mean, there was that fellow doing it in Harlem for a long time, but there was people selling it all over the street. And then we were selling I call it the original fakes. Stuff from the '80s when they first started making the fakes. I would sell it and doing really good. And but then finally Gucci and they all catched up to it. And they were copying their copies, So, but it took them a long time because they were so hard-headed to not accept it. And I'm sure, people could see what you're doing, and that you're taking something that like North Face, which is kind of real boring, and you do something different to it, and they see it, they're probably going to copy it,
Well, that's true, and that people have. That happened to us.
Yeah.
I don't want to call out brands here because it might come back to bite me in the ass, but there's been brands that have come to us for proposals on doing projects, and then it never goes anywhere, and then a season later, we see those same designs that we gave them as proposals in their line.
Yeah, it's amazing because they have to make a 50,000 dozen in some faraway country where you're just making, a sample, a couple of dozen, whatever, of something, and you don't have to have the fear of making 50,000 dozen, and that's why I think local production is a much better way to go because of smaller quantities, and you get more variety of stuff and more something where people can look different with.
Quick pause in the show to bring you a word from our sponsor. Shout out BidStitch, the platform where you can sell your vintage clothing with no commission fees. Your one-stop shop for all the vintage news in the community. App is currently in development. Right now, you can get on the desktop version, sell your clothes, read the news, connect with people in the community. Shout out BidStitch.
Okay, I'm going to change lanes on you, Rich. I'm going to change some lanes on you. Sure. I heard from a good source that you got into a fist fight in a rag yard.
Yeah, man, I could talk about that, sure. I mean, how do I approach this? Listen, I've been in, rag houses are located in pretty rough neighborhoods, and
a lot of them,
Bronx or God knows where in Philadelphia or where in whatever kind of neighborhoods they are. And you always had to be careful around there, cars broken in. I could tell you 100 stories. But, the thing is, people go crazy. People go crazy. There's something in this clothing that makes people go crazy because when you find whatever it is, and, somebody else, you have it, right? You have this, and you're holding it and somebody else sees it. There's something like I don't know, there's some kind of chemical happens in somebody in vintage dealers' brains, and thank God I've been able to suppress that for myself, where you see somebody have something, you're in a rag house or you're at a show or whatever, you have to kind of like put it out because, you know, there's always something else. But the story goes like this. I don't mind telling about it. And this guy was a nutcase. And, you know, I got into a fight. I mean, like, I'm a little bit older, you know, and I couldn't bend down. You know, I can't go down and up, down and up. You know, you have to go down. So there was an empty table. So I took the table over, and so I would put stuff on the table so I could stand up so I don't have to bend down, you know, into a box or a barrel. And, you know, I said, I take the table over. He goes, that's my table. I said, look, it ain't your table. You don't own the table. The warehouse owner owns the table. All right. You're not using the table now. I'm using the table. That's it. Forget about it. It's my table. I'm using it now. That's it. So he gets upset at me and he like throws something at me. I throw it back at him. And he just like jumped over the barrels, over the stuff, and like came at me with his hands, you know, and like right at my face. So he got into a fight. And, you know, I mean, I've gotten in fights, like arguing over merchandise, but, you know, the thing is you have to not let yourself or your workers be totally consumed with this culture or this clothing, because, you know, people go crazy. I had a fight over reverse weaves once. This is years ago when it first got, you know, you get like 100 of them. It'd be like this, a couple of hundred, you know, throwing barrels at each other. Fuck you. This will fuck you. You know,
It's true. People go nuts in this business. We've had people fight in our booth many times.
Right. You have to.
I've almost gotten to fight. I've been threatened a bunch of times. And
yeah. You know, I've gotten like, sometimes you have to use like your jealousy as like, it helps you get out there. And I'm going to go out there. Oh, this person's going to get it before me. Like I was at a show this past Sunday. So what did I do? Everybody was hanging out Saturday night. I said, no, I'm going home. I'm going to bed early. I got up early. I had a big breakfast. I was there right when they're unloading. I got I got cross colors. I got 40 acres and a mule stuff, you know. So I was there early, you know. So that's the thing. You use your jealousy that you want to get stuff in a positive way. Don't use it in a physical way against somebody. Use it to drive use. Use it to get better. But back off from the physical confrontation. You know, remember this, there's always more stuff around the corner that if you decide to be in this business, you can go out and get it. Get up early. Don't go out drinking. Don't go out partying. Everybody's smoking pot like crazy today. You know, they're stumbling into the show. You know, take care of yourself. I mean, listen, I'm 62, okay? I'm still hanging out. I'm competing against 20-year-olds. I realized early on, the only way I'm going to do this, I got to stay healthy. No drinking, no drugs, go to bed early, don't party. And I can get up early. I could be there, you know, the early bird gets the worm, you know. And you got to pace yourself, you know.
Love that.
But yeah, I would love to go out and party, but I can't. But use that jealousy that you have, use it to drive you, but don't use it in a negative form where you're going to jump somebody. You know, but I did get one good swing. I got one punch in.
Oh, you did? Nice.
Boom! I have like this. You can see it. Boom! I got like that. I got one punch in, but my face was all scratched up. But we worked out a settlement, you know, so.
Settlement, like I can stand being in the same room as you for a while?
Monetary, because, you know, I got some money out of it. But, you know, it's like I didn't really want it, but, you know, because my wife wanted them arrested and they were going crazy because, you know, if they get arrested, they're going to lose the visa and there's going to be this whole, you know, like this and that.
Man. This was like really bigger than I thought.
Oh no, it was like I'll show you the video. I'll try, if I can dig it out of my phone, I'll send it to you. But yeah, it was you know, like, you see, the problem is the boss was telling the young guys, oh, you got to be on top of it. You got to get ahead of him. You got to be on top of it. So I think early in the day, like I was going to go for some denim jackets and I was going to the pile. And so he was always like going to the barrel where, goes from the barrel to the pile, right?
Yeah.
So he would go to the barrel. When he'd see me by the denim jackets, he would jump to the barrel. So no, all right, do your fucking thing, go, I don't care. I'll find something on the bottom, I'll find a good, good denim jacket, made in USA today. I mean, whatever. But I'll find it because I know from experience that you're going to find enough stuff to survive on. So, the boss was always, hurry up, but avoid the confrontation. And when you're in a warehouse, let me tell you this, folks, if somebody's working, stay 6 feet away from the person. Don't go up next to them. Don't try to look what they're buying. Don't get next to them because it's disturbing. Get out of my space. I have a radar like in Star Trek. I got a force field.
Yeah,
When I break my force field, I'm going to get in front of you. So yeah, it was pretty serious. But look, going through those rough neighborhoods, you'd see the dead body. They throw the dead bodies. And you see all the drugs and this. I mean, thank God nothing serious like that happened. I mean, there was a robbery once, and thank God I was able to get out of there in time before they came in with the guns. So
you were in a rag yard that got robbed?
Oh yeah. Because the Dominicans would pay with cash. The Dominican pickers. The regular clothing people.
Yeah,
they pay in cash. So the owner always had like a wad, like this thick, and he had always have it in his pocket. So he was always take the cash. Yeah, he was very insecure. He liked to have that wad of cash. So of course, some employee probably told his friends that this guy carries a lot of cash. So I left, thank God I left like 10 minutes before they came in, with the guns, or give me the money. He goes into a different pocket. They know, go in that pocket. They pull it, they pulled it out. He pulls it out. And then one of his employees tries to grab his arm, the guy who had the gun, and the gun went off and it missed the boss by this much.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why when you're in these type of neighborhoods, and be well protected. I used to have New York, we can't have guns, so I would always have a nice blade, and, just
Be prepared, people. Be prepared.
Oh no, I could tell you a lot of stories, but we got to talk a dead stock story, okay?
Okay, let's hear a dead stock story.
Because I love to hear when I listened to your podcast, you talk about dead stock.
Yeah,
and this is something I love to hear those stories. But anyway, I'll just tell you one. It's always going to be under your nose, And I work flea markets in Manhattan, and Manhattan. Okay, come on, there's not going to be anything in Manhattan. So I was, in the flea market, and one of my customers comes up. He's wearing like dead stock, third style Biggie. It's late 80s or whatever. What the, of course, your eye goes right to the, where did you get that from? It was like just a regular guy. He goes, oh man, I got it at the Richard's Aqualung Center. Richard's Aqualung Center? What the hell is that? Where's that? He goes, it's on 42nd Street. 42nd Street? Where? Between 7th and 8th Avenue. Now, this is the late 80s. This is true. God honest truth. This was like the porno type. This was the porno strip. You ever seen the movies where they have all the porno movie houses and the dancers and the strippers and the drug addicts and the hookers and the pimps and the whatever.
Okay.
42nd Street. Now it's like a tourist destination. It's like Disneyland. Between 7th and 8th Avenue. Richard's Aqualung Center. What the hell is that? So I jumped in a cab. Boom. Flew down there like this. It was closed. All right. Boom. Monday, walking. What the fuck? The guy used to be an Army Navy store, but he switched to selling scuba equipment. I don't know. On 42nd Street. But many years ago in the 60s, he used to distribute Levi's. On the back, there was racks of Biggie jackets like this in the store. like third style, not because remember how I said the Levi's didn't really come in until mid 60s to New York. So
Yeah.
it was third style. It wasn't 557. It was, like the later 60s one.
Yeah.
But, all the gooder sizes were gone. It was like size 47, 46, 48, or 30, 36, 30, So somebody had been there early and grabbed all the better sizes. I found out it was a Japanese guy. So what do you got in the back? A racks of, brown, shot jackets with the star.
Yeah.
They have the older label, they don't,
Yeah.
racks of dead stock shot jackets, brown color, racks of Levi suede jackets. Oh my God. I was just, and then a lot of shot, all different type of jackets. It was just unbelievable. And then eventually, hey, do you got more stuff? Yeah, I got a warehouse up, the third floor or whatever. Oh my God. The Nehru jackets, Nehru jackets, it looked like Mao jackets, had the stand collar, like real 60s stuff. There was tons of stuff. I know, I think it was like $3,000, whatever. That was late 80s, a lot of money or more. I forgot how it was.
Yeah, but so
in other words,
and then you flipped it to the Japanese wholesaler?
well, yeah, I sold a lot of it to Fake. Did you ever hear Fake? They sell dead stock.
Fake Alpha.
No, they were just called Fake.
Okay.
I think they're still in business. That Burbagin, I think, bought them. They sell a lot of just good condition
Yeah,
stuff.
they have. I've been there.
Yeah. It's all dead. I sold a lot of it to them, and then I sold a lot of it just slowly at the street flea markets or later in my store. I think it was mostly in the 80s. I had most of it. But yeah, so what I'm trying to say is there's always going to be dead stock stuff. It's always going to be around you. You never know. It could be right under your nose, man. It'd be right under your nose. I mean, it was just amazing that it could be on 42nd Street in the middle of Manhattan. Oh, and he had one XX pants, and that was in the window, but it was all sun faded, so I didn't buy it. But that was back then. Now you'd buy it.
Oh yeah. It's funny you say this story because this is the theory of like grass is always greener. Everybody thinks if I go farther away from my home, I'm gonna find more shit or the digging's gonna be better. We had a warehouse. I just moved warehouses, but our old warehouse in Vancouver, we had for 13 years, and we were probably there for 5 years. And eventually, we were like, "What the fuck is this like screen printer place right here?" It was like a block away.
Yeah.
It was a block away from our warehouse. We've been there for 5 years already, and eventually, we like start knocking on the door. We go in, we talk to the people. Turns out they were manufacturing like sports licensing stuff for like 20 years at that point already, 30 years. So we like got to go through their storage and all this crazy shit. We're getting like Raptors gear and Blue Jays gear and all this stuff from like the 90s. And it was literally, like you said, right under our nose.
Right under your nose, man. It's right under your nose. I remember I was working on Grand Street in Brooklyn. I forgot what I was over there. Grand Street in Brooklyn is Williamsburg. But walking and then I went to the shoe repair, and he had some old like 80s T-shirts. I don't know. He just stuffed up in the back, and okay. And then I went back to say I'll buy the rest of them, But as I was walking past, going to it on Grand Street in Brooklyn, I was walking to his shop, the shoe repair. I was getting shoes. I used to do a lot of shoes years ago. Anyway, so I walked by a junk shop, and there's a little box on the floor, and there's a couple of shirts hanging out, like, the baseball shirts. There's about 10 concert shirts from the 80s. It's like, okay, wow, how much are those? 50 cents a piece. All right, I'll buy it. So, do you have more? He goes, yeah, I got more. It's an old guy. He owned the building, old Puerto Rican fellow. He owned the building, and I have more. And so I forgot the name of the bands anyway. And he built a second story. He built a second row in his house, because it was tall ceilings. He built like a little big shelf, and he put the shirts all in the back. Anyway, he used to buy the leftover shirts from the guys that used to sell the bootlegs at the concerts in the 80s. And he would sell it as junk shop, but he'd put it in storage. Anyway, it took me about 6 months to finally convince him to take them out. I bought 800 of them.
Wow.
Worth 50 cents a piece. Yeah, it was an incredible deal. So in other words, you see a little something, you know, a lot of times, obviously things don't work out. You see a little something. I mean, today, like, look at how the kids pulling out the 90s stuff, like from the Korean stores that are located in the urban areas all around the country. You know, like a lot of kids found big, or African-American neighborhoods where they found the dead stock rap t-shirts.
Yeah.
You know, so there's always stuff around there, but yeah, it's under your nose all the time.
One of my
You just have to have that eye.
dad's friends would always say, when you're in an elevator, speak to the people in the elevator. You never know who they are, and they might be like a connection that you would later, you know, be so thankful that you made that connection. Like, just
people.
You know,
There was well, I get a lot of people walk into the store a lot and, you know, sell us stuff. And some fellow comes in, oh, do you want to buy some stuff? I said, yeah, sure. You bring it out. And he brought out some stuff. And there was an old, like, kind of a Westerner type of jacket. You remember Lee had Westerner, that kind of off-white color?
Yeah, the white ones. Yeah.
That's from the 60s. Oh, my uncle or whatever passed away. And I'm selling the estate. So it turns out the uncle was an old gay cruiser on the west side of, you know, Manhattan, you know, where these guys would dress up in leather and denim. Okay, so I look, can I come to the apartment? Well, the apartment was just filled with leather jackets, denim jackets, denim with all the patches and the studs and the boot. Oh my God. And then the t-shirts and then this and that. So stuff, yeah, it's always there around you. Just keep looking, you know. Go to bed early.
I want to talk about rap t-shirts now.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, you're in New York, and that's like the epicenter, obviously, East Coast rap. It's also the epicenter of like early trends. Like you see fashion trends typically before like definitely before middle America, and oftentimes even before LA. So like, when were you first selling rap tees, and like when did you start to see it like grow in popularity?
Well, I can't remember exactly. I can't say the first year that I bought some, but I do remember that as 90s stuff started to come into vogue, I started to get a lot of African-American customers, especially a lot of young people, a lot of Hispanic kids and stuff. And they were really the ones.
That was a change. It's good to point out that like that was a new customer base at that point, right?
That was a new customer base because you got to remember, African-American people didn't have their own line of clothing like pre-1990. They would always like Adidas or whatever. And in the 1990s, when Cross Colors came out and all these brands and, you know, Kanai and, you know, all these other brands came out, they were making stuff for African-Americans specifically because that's what they were designing for. And they were designing the size and the color, especially the color, the bright colors that they look very good with against the brown skin. And so it was a different kind of style back then because I think they were making it for them. So as the 1990s came in, the young people were reacting very strongly because they remember their uncles, their fathers, their mothers, their aunts wearing it, and they could see it in photographs and whatever. And they reacted very positively to it. And they were like maybe less than 10% of my customers. To now it's probably close to like 75%. Honestly, African-American and Hispanic people too. Because, you know, the whole used clothing business is Hispanic owned now, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's different in a lot of places, but.
Yeah, it's really changed over time. But I can't remember specifically. So I was, at the time, whatever, like they reacted, like I was looking for whatever African-American people really liked or wanted. So I would tell the guys, look, if it had any kind of black figure on it, you know, whether it was Malcolm X or it was Snoop Dogg or whatever, get that, because when I would put it up, it would sell. I mean, I always had kind of music stuff. Many years ago, before used t-shirts, I sold new music t-shirts, rock and roll t-shirts, you know. And so I always had, because we're in the East Village, you know, there's a whole punk scene, you know, all the Ramones and all that, you know, Cramps, whatever. And so I was knowledgeable about music. So I used to sell a lot of new stuff. So I started to see the trend early on of music t-shirts. I was into music, rock and roll shirts. So, oh, well, wait a minute, this rap stuff would go good. So I started to put them up, but then you put it up, what, $45, $60, whatever. It just kept going up and up and up and up and up and up. Now I don't think I've bought one in a long time. I mean, maybe R&B stuff you could still afford, but I can't remember specifically, but I was buying for African-American customers.
Yeah.
That's what really did it. And that's the biggest change of the customer base. They're really the ones that drive my business.
Well, we
today.
noticed that change when we were getting involved, like when it was the early days of us selling urban, because we were really big in urban stuff in the beginning, which started from sports and then moved into those urban brands you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Fubu, Cross Colors, Carl Kanai.
Oh, yeah.
You know, all that stuff. And like the customer base really changed, because when we first started going to the Rose Bowl, like those people weren't shopping there. They weren't part of the,
No.
We were selling like old 70s and 80s rock stuff to like kind of Hollywood types, you know, or like the dealers.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it really changed into like
these young kids,
and urban became big, and then rap tees became big. And in the beginning, like you said, the rap tees were just part of the everyday mix.
It was just part of the mix. It was just part of the mix. You know, like you would get the Cross Colors or Carl Kanai or whatever that stuff. Fubu is it's never really sold that well. I don't know why. I could put out a Carl Kanai pair of jeans or a Carl Kanai jacket and I'll sell it right away. Fubu, I don't know. They kind of like, it maybe became too corporatized. I don't know.
It was definitely more of it.
There's a ton of it. I know.
To sell it well for females.
Yeah, and but all the wide leg stuff does great now. And then like the young white kids, and they react to that whatever fashion's going on, and they listen to all the rap artists, and I think they react to that, and that's why they're really into the clothing today.
Yeah.
But it was really driven by African-American people. Absolutely. I don't think we would have gotten to this point me at least, without them being such customers for that style of clothing.
Because it did take it took celebrities starting to get into it. So like modern rappers starting to wear vintage to then influence the younger generation, I believe.
Yes.
That was nothing because previously rap culture and like that whole culture was so about always having the newest expensive thing, not an old thing.
True. But I think a lot of the artists, the rap artists, become designers, you know. True, yeah. And also, so in other words, like a Little Yachty has stuff. He always comes in and looks for stuff. I'm sure you've sold him stuff. Yep. Or I could go all down the line, or that Rocky Cott is a very good customer of ours. So the artist is always looking for something different. They want to look different. I mean, that's what vintage, I think the advantage of vintage has over regular fashion is that it's different than what's being offered out there now, that they could wear something. They could find a shirt, like a rap artist wearing a metal shirt. I mean, that's really radical, like an Iron Maiden shirt or whatever. I forgot. Or, so they're looking for something that's different. Or remember when Rocky was wearing the scarves around his head, like it was like a little babushka, it's like your grandmother used to wear, It's like, what the fuck? It's like this, but he's doing something that really distinguishes himself, and it's something that's colorful and nice and different. And listen, now he made a slight little trend. I don't think it went too, and now he's wearing like the blankets or something. I don't know what he's wearing, but so they're looking for something to be different, to get out there. And I think vintage affords that.
Totally. That's awesome.
If you've listened this far in the episode, first of all, thank you. Second of all, you must be a big fan. I appreciate you big time. You can help me out greatly by liking this video on YouTube, sharing this video, giving me a review on iTunes, sharing the iTunes link, posting it to your Instagram, posting it to your Facebook, whatever. Thank you very much, because it keeps this program going.
You are, I don't know how many times, virtual flea MVP shopper.
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem was, what happened was I had a pretty good supply at rag houses with the vintage shirts, okay?
Yeah.
And not that they were cheap, okay, everybody? So I'm not making a lot of money because prices went up. Believe me, everybody knows prices. But I would come, every month, gigantic stack. So the pandemic hit, and then everything just kind of disappeared because, rag houses, I don't know, they're being pulled before because, there's not that much wrap shirts come through a rag house anymore. It's all being pulled before. So the older 90s stuff it disappeared like overnight. It went shoo, like this. So I have nothing to sell. I can't put any quality stuff up. So all of a sudden these shows started to appear. The first ones I started to go to was DFW, which is a show in Dallas that Jason, I forgot his last name, anyway, a fellow named Jason, DFW, Dallas Fort Worth. It's called, he had a partner. Now there's 2 shows going on in Dallas. And it was 90s and t-shirts. And I started going there before the pandemic. And we were just doing phenomenal, just come back with that. And then the pandemic hit. And then all of a sudden, Chris, 1980 something, he started his show. And I was able to buy, shirts for, $75 up to $150 that I can make some money on. And it kind of replaced what I was normally getting at the rag house. Because at the rag house, when something gets popular, it disappears right away.
Yeah.
The Coogee sweater is gone overnight, 99, really good 1990 shirts gone overnight, But
yeah.
So I had to supplement that. And then, they look beautiful up on the, look back there. They look gorgeous, right?
Of course.
But, you don't make that much money on them, but it helps, like, sell the $45, the $65, the $75, the $95 shirts, Yeah. So it's sort of it's a great marketing thing. So it's so I would go there and I would just I need quantity, I got a big store, I got to pay a lot of rent, I got to pay the payroll, and so as long as I could turn them over, I go there and I buy them. And but I'm not going to the one in Chicago because I have to go somewhere else. I have some other engagement. I'm kind of missing it. But
okay, well, everybody out there, the MVP buyer spot is open.
Oh yeah, go ahead, buy.
Not there, so
got to drop like $15,000 though.
So bring your wad, and you may win that prestigious award of MVP shopper.
Oh yeah. He's
to Toronto this month. Have you been to Canada since the pandemic?
No, I haven't.
But you have been to Canada, right?
I think I was in Canada. Oh my gosh. I think actually I was out not over probably 30 years ago, but I did go to I used to ski in Whistler.
You did?
Not in Canada? Oh, my brother lives in Seattle.
I live like 20 minutes up the road from Whistler.
You got some really good black diamond areas.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so what I was going to say, though, is you should come to Toronto March 26th, 27th. We are throwing a big event in Toronto. There's going to be 50 vendors.
Oh, super.
It's in conjunction with Deadstock Depot. And
great.
We need
Toronto's a big vintage, it's a good rag area because I remember when that started to develop.
Yeah.
That's that's what caused a lot of rag prices to go up, the basic rag when it started going to Toronto. So Toronto's a big, hey, everybody who's listening, Toronto's a great rag vintage area, right? Because it has a lot of rag houses, right?
A lot of rag houses. That means that our vintage event is going to have a lot.
Great, yeah. When is it again?
March 26th, 27th.
Oh, the end of the month, 26th and 27th.
You could take an hour flight and fly in.
I could do the 26th. We're having an event on the 28th here with all women dealers, so I have to be back. I could come up for one day. I'll definitely do it.
Cool.
Sure. Oh, and fantastic.
Are you going to be doing Faded in the spring?
Yeah. My buddies are setting up there. I'm going to do Brimfield also. There's a vintage show at Brimfield because Brian Cohen, Hollywood, Brian, Snappy Gabs.
Yeah.
He bought the show.
He bought what show?
The Brimfield show.
He bought the whole thing of Brimfield.
No, he bought the show that's in the hotel for one day before Brimfield starts. Like the trade show, like a vintage show.
Oh, I didn't know they did that. I thought everyone just did at Brimfield.
No, the day before Brimfield starts, there's a one-day show in a hotel conference room called Sturbridge, and it's been going on for like 30, 40 years. And an old lady had run it, and then she needed to retire, so she sold it to Brian and a partner. So they're now running it, and they're going to kind of update it to more the current, 90s stuff, whatever. So they gave me a nice space, so I'm going to put some stuff out there.
That's
I'm
awesome.
going to do a little traveling. Yeah.
That's like the week before Faded, which.
No, it's the beginning of the month, May 8th, and then Faded is, I think, the end of May.
Okay. I still have not been to Brimfield, so if I can get away from the office, I'm definitely.
Oh, yeah. It's more of an antique thing. I don't know how much clothing, but they do have this one-day clothing show. I'm sure there's clothing dealers inside the fields. It's all outdoor.
Yeah.
It's like a farm fields, it's an old country road. On both sides, there's a big. I used to go up there in the early '90s. We did very good at the time, so I'm sure there's still stuff there.
There's got to be. I have friends that go all the time. So again, Faded in the spring.
May 28th.
May 28th. Is that what it is?
Yes.
May.
And your show is March 27th, 26th, and 27th.
Yeah. So
Friday and Saturday.
In Toronto. If you want more info on that, I'll put info in the show notes down below.
Oh yeah, please do. And send out a flyer and stuff so I know. No, I'm honestly, the shows are terrific for me. I'm doing great at these vintage shows, these newer, younger vintage shows. Like whether it's T-shirts or I went to a show on this Sunday called the Tri-State Vintage Show. I forgot it was in New Jersey, and it was 30 vendors, and it was terrific. So a lot of these young dealers, it's happening all over. I mean, you got to take advantage of it. You got to, but you have to be able to sell it. Thank God I got a good location. I could sell a little bit higher.
You could be a grumpy old head who complains about everything, or you can just go out and have fun and sell some shirts.
Yeah, just try to go with the flow. I mean, I only got a few more years. I can't do this forever.
So that's. I heard you also have your daughter coming with you on picking trips now.
Oh yeah. My younger daughter helps me out. Yeah, she does a lot of the people stuff. I concentrate on the buying and the cleaning. Cleaning is very important, especially when it comes from rag houses. So I have a gigantic laundry room, not here, but at my house. I mean, I have eight pieces of equipment.
You do that all at your house? You have 8 washer dryers?
Yeah, in the basement. Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's hard. I can't get it here to vent properly, so I got to do it. You have to have water, gas, venting. So cleaning is very important when you buy from rag houses. I mean, when you buy from a thrift shop, you don't have to worry. But rag houses, how you get stuff from rag houses. It comes all dirty and wrinkled.
Yeah, and nowadays you get more and more dirty stuff. It's like I feel like.
Oh yeah, I mean, thank God, at least Carhartt, they like the broken stuff.
Yeah.
Or the denim, they like it broken. Or the T-shirts, they like broken.
Good, finally.
I know. The sports stuff they don't like broken, but that's different.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So she's interested in fashion. She's interested in vintage. She likes it.
Oh yeah. She loves doing it, coming around, hanging out, and she's running the shows now, like that we have in the basement. So it takes my energy off of that, and she's doing that. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How old is she?
Oh, she's oh my gosh, I think 31.
Oh wow.
I know. They grow up eventually, Drew.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm trying to enjoy. Well,
yeah, enjoy while they're young. No, they're great. I got 2 good kids.
I mean, sorry, my oldest turned 10 yesterday.
Oh wow.
Birthday party. So
yeah. You see, you got them skiing.
I got them skiing, snowboarding. Yeah, they're loving that.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we're getting into the teenage years fast here, and I'm kind of freaked out.
Yeah. I mean, some of them can give you some trouble, I guess. You gotta worry at that point in time. But like my father was he started he was a hats, shoes, and gloves buyer for Brooks Brothers, and then he became a shoe salesman for Bass shoes. So I kind of knew about clothing. I had it in my blood, and So, you know, you kind of pass it on. I mean, look how you got passed on from your father
Totally.
about, you know, being a really dynamic entrepreneur, you know? So you get it, you pass it on, you know, you don't, maybe not, you can't force it into them, but they see it, they see how you do things and they copy you, you know?
You lead by example. Yeah. I find every time I try to force anything, it backfires.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Especially when they're young, you can get them in a good vintage, but when they're getting a little bit older, you can't. But then when they get older, they want the vintage. So, but get those good
Yeah.
pictures when they're little and vintage. They look great.
It's the self-conscious like teen years that they're like, we don't want that. And then when
Oh
they
yeah. Oh no,
smile
they
again,
hated it.
they're back in.
No, they hated it. But all the clothing that they wanted, I have the pictures of the, you know, Beavis and Butthead T-shirts or the polo. She has the Polo Bear like sweatsuit, you know. So she picked out some pretty good stuff that I didn't like. So good for her, right?
That's funny.
Yeah.
So what's next for yourself and Metropolis here? Any plans?
Well, you know, I think going forward, I mean, I have this big basement, and you know, we're utilizing it for the shows, and eventually I want to open it up. But it's getting enough clothing to fill it up because whatever I can get, you know, it sells pretty good upstairs. I really like to get towards that, and just trying to navigate through the T-shirt thing because obviously, you know, it was so good for so long, and you know, now it's not as good, and just trying to figure out like a really good seller. I mean, it's you know, you just have to keep trying. I mean, you know, I don't know what else. What's forward as far as we're going? What's in the spring? I mean, listen. Unfortunately, in the warmer weather, half the business is T-shirts. That's a reason why I was buying a lot at the shows. It's really a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is like what I've always worried about is that trying to find a replacement for that. And that's the biggest worry that I have. And just trying to be, for getting that variety, putting out all that variety out, doing all different types of men's. Hey, look, 70s men's shirts are great. You know, the disco shirts, boom, they fly out in really good numbers. So just trying to explore and trying to see. And then I want to, you know, hey, military hasn't really done good. Let me see if I could do a little military. You know, I put a lot of military out, see if there's any action in there. No. So pull back.
Even the classic BDU pants, can you sell those?
Yeah, but not in the woodland camo. No.
It's funny because the girls are, well, I guess the girls really like the olive green cargos right now. Like if you can get.
Well, the big baggy stuff, the thin stuff, sort of like the UFO pants. I think that's. I keep getting requests for that, but they're hard.
Yeah,
to
like
find.
the parachute pants almost. The
Yeah.
really baggy stuff. Yeah, and it's funny because like there's these designers making cargo BDU pants, but they're just making them a little baggier than the classic, which is like, fuck, we gotta like alter them or something to make them sellable now.
Yeah, and that goes back to, you know, your father, because the first guy I bought tons of dead stock parachute pants from Sheba. So you could tell your father that one. And that's where UFO used to get them, and then they got them and they copied them. So see how it goes all around a circle?
Yeah, totally.
Right back to Sheba.
Sheba. Yeah, I want to ask one last question.
Sure, go ahead.
On the podcast here, and then we'll wrap this up. You know, by the way, shout out Bowie Kokemir. Shout out Sam. He gave me.
Oh, Sam's a great guy. I love him.
Here. But he was telling me about all the photographs you have of true vintage stuff from back in the day. Because you know.
Oh, you want me to tell you about him?
Well, I guess, yeah. Tell us about it. And, you know, he was saying that because this is before phones, before digital photography, so you literally took photos. So explain us about that.
Well, I mean, before phones or wherever, you go to somebody and go, oh, can you get this Biggie pants with the little E? And you go, what the hell are you talking about? You know? So what I did was I bought an expensive camera with a really expensive close-up lens. You know, the one that gets really in close? So you can really see the details. So what I did was I took loads and loads of photos of the old true vintage, the military and denim, and I love work clothing. I loads of headlight stuff, and I love military. So I took a lot of old photos and I made books. Like you look at the family books.
Yeah.
So I got rid of most of them, but I kept a few of them. But I used them to bring to people to, like if somebody was saving like overcoats, whatever, somebody says, hey, take a look at this book. If you find any of this stuff, give me a call. I'll buy it from you. So that's how I used that was before Instagram, whatever. It was a way of getting information out. So.
And would you just print like a bunch of these books and give them to?
No, it was too expensive. It was like photo books, and I would have them, wherever, and I would show. Oh, at the rag houses, you would tip the worker to save you stuff. You know that.
Yeah.
Now, that also causes a lot of trouble, and there's a lot of knife play with that too. But that's a long story. But money, baby, money. You know what I mean? But so I take the book and hey, look at this. You see this military thing. You see with this, and you see that. Save it for me. So I would use that for information. It was pre-phone. I mean, now I get the photos and I send it to the person at the warehouse. It saves for me.
Yeah.
And they see what I want, So
yeah, it's so easy now. So
yeah, so it was like, but this is like from years ago, from the 1980s,
Can you remember like one or two of like your most memorable finds, like pieces that you've had that maybe were crazy, rare, or wild, or interesting?
Well, I mean, I never really got like Heller, who goes back into the 20s or turns of the century, but I would love to have found that kind of stuff. But I mean, there's so many amazing things. But obviously, like the dead stock story I love to tell was right there in 42nd Street. Midnight Cowboy, the movie. He's like a male hustler on the street, and he's wearing the cowboy outfit. And they had a lot of cowboyish kind of stuff. So that was just an amazing thing. And also the one I told you where there was the cruiser, the gay cruiser.
Yeah.
And that was just, I mean, there's so many. I mean, I think the first time I sold like the 2 pockets for like $150, I had 2 of them. I sold them to a Japanese guy and he put it in a magazine. I was like, oh my God. It's like, it was just amazing. Going to find, I was just telling this other story where there was an old Army Navy store in Queens, and the guy had an old workwear sign, the size of this, double the size of my sign, right?
Yeah.
It was on the outside of the building in the back or whatever. And I convinced him to take it down. I bought it for $500, $600. But in his store, he had the beach jackets. This is what I was telling you about. And they were all up there. And the Japanese guy would come to me. He couldn't convince him to get them out, to sell it to him. He wouldn't sell it. I guess maybe the guy was prejudiced. He didn't want to sell it to Japanese people. I don't know. But I was able to talk to the old people, because a lot of these characters who used to own these stores were very, like this. So you'd have to deal with them in a special way. But yeah, just finding those old beach jackets, I think were really special. Like the ones without the collar, the ones with the big buttons. There was beach jackets without collars, There was like the Stoker jacket, that no collar, the big brown buttons from like the 20s or 30s. Yeah, all that kind of stuff was amazing. But it goes back to find, like on 42nd Street, finding just amazing stuff.
An unreal.
Yeah, whenever you see those movies about New York in the 70s or the 60s or the 80s with all this porn, that porn street, just think of all the denim that was sold out of Richard's Aqualung Center. It was an amazing story. I remember stuff in the car and like people are running around like trying to mug each other. It was like, it was just a crazy street at the time. It was whacked out, like really whacked out. No joke.
Cool, man. Do anybody you want to thank or shout outs here at the end of the show? And
well, I guess I should thank my uncle who got me started in the business. He was a bit of a nutcase himself, but to Uncle Michael, God bless you. I still love you. And to Label for Church Street Surplus, I'm talking about all old timers. He's almost 90 years old, but he owns his building. Listen, if you ever have a chance to buy the building that you're in, I think you guys do that too. Buy the building that you're in. Don't let all your hard labor, you got to give it to the landlord like I do, which is stupid. All that money, because you're very good. You talk about financial stuff, which is very good. All your hard labor goes to a landlord. Let all your hard labor go into owning something. Try to buy your own place. Even if it's an out of the way, junky place, just go in that direction.
Yeah.
Try to have all that money that you work your ass off. Don't give it to a landlord. Give it to yourself in buying some real estate, because you got to put it somewhere, and keep your collection for a long time, because if I kept all my denim and military collection, it would have been like this, I got rid of it at a cheap price. But now I got t-shirt stuff. So
Cool. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate
hey,
you.
Drew, it's a pleasure. I've been I loved your show, and I've always listened to all the episodes and stuff. I really appreciate what you're doing. It's really helpful to listen to other people talk about the business and get ideas and how things are done and financially and stuff like that. And give a big shout out to that old man you got over there, your old man. Tell him Walter Seltzer is still in business. His son is doing it down in Florida.
All right.
Okay. So you see, there's always room for everybody. Just pass it on to your kids. So thank you very much, Drew. I got to go. And
Right. We'll talk to you soon.
we'll see you around in March 26th and 27th.
27th, and then Faded.
Okay, cool. We'll be there. Thanks a lot, man.
That's it for today's episode, everyone. Appreciate you all tuning in. New episodes dropping weekly. Who do you guys want to see on the show? Let me know. Send me a message on Instagram. Drop it in the comments. Who do you guys want to see on the show? I got great people lined up for the next few episodes. Yeah, appreciate you all. Have a great day.